Why don't we go through
that's a good
what
start.
happens in the cycle, and then we can go into how you describe it.
You know what's so funny is when I went to really break the cycle apart, it's like follicular, luteal. Like, oh my God, the only part that women know or anybody knows is ovulation, because we know, hey, you want to get pregnant, focus on that. Don't get pregnant, focus on that. But there's so much vernacular in the term in hormones that isn't easy to understand.
Totally, absolutely.
So I'm like, if we're gonna get women to understand this, I need to give better names.
Totally,
so I renamed them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I honestly, now I think about it, I'm like, that makes so much more sense, because it's less descriptive of the biology, but it's more descriptive of the emotions and the process and the what actually goes on during that 28 to 35 day, however long a person's cycle is. So,
so thank you for appreciating
I appreciate that, honestly, massively.
So day 1 through day 10, I called the power phase. And the reason I called it a power phase is because it starts off with our hormones being the lowest. When our hormones are low, we actually sometimes feel our best, because we're just a little more emotionally stable. We can be, we can, I don't want to say operate like a man more, but we can fast more. We can eat more. We can go into keto a little more. We can exercise more, and we feel fine. But then, as we go into like around day 5 or day 6, estrogen is building. So I wanted to call it the power phase because of 2 things. One, you can power up on all your health habits. If you want to go into a detox, if you want to fast, if you want to push it at the gym, fine. You can even power up at work. If you want to go into a long day of work, do it during that time. If you want to go socialize, do it during that time. So we are really can lean into this powerful part of us in that first 10 days. Estrogen also makes us powerful. Our ability to access both right and left brain, so we can be creative and logical, are really important as estrogen is building. Ask any menopausal woman who loses that. You often lose that ability to access both parts of the brain. So there's so much about estrogen that is incredible, that we want to power up on health habits, and it makes us powerful. And that's the first 10 days.
Okay. So during this power phase, so it from what you've just described, it just feels that you can tolerate a lot more stress.
Oh, you can handle more stress.
And you can push yourself further, right? Okay.
So and this is just to bring some of my new research in that you and I were talking about. If you look at just estradiol, so for everybody listening, estradiol is the most powerful form of estrogen. We have 3 types of estrogen. Estradiol is what you need to release an egg. So women that are still cycling, they've got estradiol. Estradiol can stimulate 5 neurochemicals in your brain, which is crazy. Dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, a brain fertilizer that we call BDNF, and oxytocin. 5 of things that make you happy, help you hold on to information, can help you learn new information, and make you feel connected to other people. So in that first 10 days of your menstrual cycle, you are wickedly powerful. And you're also very joyful. So I always say to the men, like, you want the best of us? Go into some deep conversations with us. Like, if you want to resolve conflict with us, do it on like day 10.
Okay, yeah.
Like, we've got all this estrogen in us. We're going to be a lot more wanting to connect with you. We can think things through a little bit better. If I had a large company, I would put all the women at certain times of their month in one room together to create new projects based off of this powerful form of estrogen because of all the things she does. So
great time to start a business, a new venture. Try and hit your PB in the gym. That sort of thing. Okay. This is great, I think, because a lot of women that certainly in my life anyway, putting aside patients, see the menstrual cycle as an inconvenience as a result of, the ability to procreate. It's just something I have to deal with outside of, when I want to actually have kids, if I want to have kids. And this, I think, is completely turning on its head. It's putting a new lens, a new spin on it, and actually showing someone that they can feel powerful and empower them as to what's going on and why their body is so impressive.
Yeah. You thank you for that interpretation of it, because I can tell you as a woman, we bitch and moan about our cycle from the day it starts. And then when it starts to go away in menopause, we have a whole nother emotional experience. But it's just a massive inconvenience. And like you said, until we want to get pregnant, and then we're happy, it's working right. But it did so much. There's so much hormonally happening to us. If women understood their hormones, they would see how powerful they are, and they'd know how to build a lifestyle around that, and they'd be able to go and talk to their doctor at another level. So, like, for example, one other interesting thing in that first 10 days is as estrogen is building, so is cholesterol. So you actually have higher levels of cholesterol the first 10 days of your cycle.
Oh, wow.
Now, it's good cholesterol. It's HDLs. But that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So when you go and you get like blood work, do they look at that?
Absolutely not.
No.
And I'm just thinking back now, like, whenever I do bloods or any investigations, let's say, I'm not really thinking about that unless I'm looking at specific sex hormones.
Yep.
That's the only time where I think I've even had the consideration of, okay, we've done cholesterol ratios, we've done, HDL, ApoB lipoproteins, let's say. I'm not thinking, okay, well, when was this woman, where was she on her menstrual cycle?
Right.
I've got no, and there isn't an indication on a lab either,
right,
where I can indicate, okay, this woman was on day 10 or day 21 or whatever it was. And so that's fascinating, because that opens up a whole can of worms, doesn't it, about what other things are we doing at different stages of the cycle that could impact the results, and therefore the interpretation of those results that leads to management further down the line.
Yeah.
Wow.
I haven't even studied all the blood work. I did, and I'll send you this article. I did find one graph on PubMed that was showing all of the amino acid changes, all of the neurotransmitter changes, all of the pretty much there's about 20 different neurochemical changes that are happening in a woman through her menstrual cycle. And mineral use, vitamin use, all of that changes at different parts of our cycle.
Wow.
So like, for example, we tend to use more amino acids post-ovulation. Okay, why would you use more amino acids post-ovulation? Well, because you need more aminos to be able to make progesterone. Okay, well, let's put that in food terms. That would mean I need more of a complete protein in the back half of my cycle so that I can actually make progesterone to shed the uterine lining. Okay, I got to interrupt this video because I have a free guide for you so you can master fasting. It's called A Beginner's Guide to a Fasting Lifestyle. And all you've got to do is click here and you can jump right in. Like you start, and then you go, okay, well, what about if you're vegan? Okay, well, then maybe you're going to need to power up on some amino supplements. These are the kind of nuance that we as a society have to get into for women, but we got to find a way to simplify it.
Absolutely, because personalized medicine is certainly having a moment right now, and I think that's what's left out of the conversation is, okay, personalized medicine is great, but like, what about personalizing it for women according to their cycles as well, just like you just articulated there with food, and how you would need more amino acids in that later stage of the cycle. That's fascinating, and it's kind of mind-boggling. I'm going to have to really go and read about it, so I'd love to hear a bit more about that article.
I'll send you the article because it blew my mind, and I'm still trying to pull all the threads out because they looked at so many markers throughout the cycle that I'm trying to interpret it and go, okay, now how do we make this simple for women? So that's the power phase.
Okay, that's the power phase.
Yep.
And then
the first, and I'll explain.
The first bit, the power phase.
There's two of them. Then ovulation is really interesting. So, and again, I'm like, God, the human body is so cool. Like how we were designed is brilliant. So during ovulation, estrogen peaks. So we are mentally at our best somewhere around day 10. So ovulation is day 10 to day 15. In the book, I called it the manifestation phase. And I did that very purposely because, of course, you can manifest a baby if that's what you want to do. But because of these hormones, you could manifest a lot because you are hormonally locked and loaded for performance during that time. So if you have a new business project, do it during ovulation. You want to go ask for a raise at work, do it during ovulation. You have a conflict you want to play out or work out with somebody in your life, do it during ovulation. I had a man come to me and chat with me about his teenage daughter and how she's so hormonal and I just don't understand her. And I said, do you know her cycle? And he's like, no. Should I know her cycle? I'm like, you should know her cycle because you would never try to resolve a conflict with her the week before her period. Do it during ovulation. She is hormonally prepared to sit down and talk to you. And the reason for that is because you've got estrogen at her peak. You've got testosterone at its peak. So testosterone for women is more than libido. It's motivation and drive. So this is why I think a work project would be great during this manifestation phase because you're motivated, you're creative, you're articulate. So you've got all these hormones that can help you fully embrace your brain and use more parts of your brain. But testosterone, like think about this for a moment. So you guys get testosterone like every 15 minutes or so. It kind of pulses in. You're in a 24-hour cycle. We get it 5 days out of the month. So now, if we get in even to libido, we're at a hormonal mismatch in libido. So ideally, if you're married, a man and a woman are married in a heterosexual relationship, you would want to know when your wife's or your partner's testosterone is coming in.
Yeah.
That's when she's going to want to be with you, and she's got all that estrogen, so she's going to really want to connect with you. Whereas as we go into the back half of the cycle, you'll see that you pretty much should leave her alone. I'll explain that one in a moment.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing I thought about was, okay, wait, testosterone also helps women build muscle. So why do we have women working out in a week schedule? Yeah. We should have women do a monthly workout calendar where during that 5-day period, she's lifting weights. Maybe one day it's bis and tris. The next day it's, legs. The next day it's chest and back. And she should be lifting really heavy weights if she wants to build muscle to use that testosterone.
Right. So there's parts of the cycle where you would do better overall by focusing your workouts. Not saying that you can't do weights outside of that time period, but you do better if you focused on muscle protein synthesis, working on heavy resistance, making sure your protein levels are adequate during that time, because overall it's going to lead to better outcomes.
That's right.
Because
now you're working with your hormones.
Exactly. And the sort of like pattern and the theme that I'm hearing is you have to understand your cycle. It's almost like you have to understand the manual for your body to get the most out of it.
That's right.
Which is it's annoying. I'm just trying to think of like the devil's advocate here, because I know the women in my life will think, well, you can just do it anytime you want. You don't have to think about this stuff every 30 days. You have to plan it on your calendar. But for you to get the most out of your body, understanding your cycle and when you should push yourself, when you should go to the gym and do certain types of targeted exercises is gonna have a massive impact.
Yeah, and once you find a rhythm with it, it gets easier and easier to understand this. What I find to the women in your life, I would say, what I find is that when you first hear this, it's mind-blowing, which is so silly because it's in our body. We should have been taught this. Like the day we got our period, we should have been taught this. But then once you find the rhythm, you're like, oh my gosh, all my health habits have never been easier. Because now I've got them in sync with my hormones. And so it just starts clicking. And every time you tried to muscle through something to get some kind of result in your body, it's now coming much easier to you.
Yes, yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. Okay, where are my gals that are struggling with hormonal imbalance? Bloated, feeling like you're not making progress with weight loss? You need to add these foods in so that you can support better hormonal health. There is a lifestyle that estrogen wants you to live, and there is a lifestyle that progesterone wants you to live.